Wow. All right, watching the numbers. I like to watch the numbers jump. We do have our stuff up in Mural board as well, if folks want to follow along.
Yes, I will share my screen. Good morning. We have 44 people. I'm assuming more will be trickling in as we get started, but we have a lot to go through. So we're just going to launch. I'll share my screen. That's a good gif. Is that how you feel today, Phil?
No, that's how I wish I feel today.
Oh, God. I hear ya. Okay, last sprint, we talked about the parent partner solution. The dev showed us that. We talked about auto log off. We showed the ministry welcome page and searching for a student account. The UX UI team showed us the results of the usability testing, our first initial one with institutions, and showed us the BC loan forgiveness and Pacific leaders applications. Quite a lot there. And a lot more to show you today in Sprint 20. Take it away, Elise.
Awesome. So it's been a busy couple weeks. We were focused on getting the send MSFAA file sorted out, some of the data migration. I know folks have been in different meetings about transition planning. So we're starting to really make sure we've got that nailed down. We have developed the last of the Epi Program Changes, and we're going to show you some of those today. Not all of them. We'd spend the whole hour going over them all, but we'll show you some of the highlights there. Also had to make some adjustments around family size calculation, program year prefix that we had to get sorted out. And again, we've had to pick and choose what we show in the demo because we could probably demo all day. And we know that folks don't have the time for that. So, and also really excitingly, the disbursement schedule. We are now able to send a disbursement schedule. So obviously we'll be working with the feds as well on figuring out how and when we can test that with them. Continuing to work on the ministry user and what's the ministry user doing? So what are they seeing when they're viewing the student account, and how do they search for an institution account? So those kinds of things. And at the same time, the UX UI is moving ahead with the other pieces. So we did conduct usability testing with some students over the last few weeks, and we'll share with you some high-level results of that. As well as starting to work on the UAT test approach. Message Center, which is basically the notifications. So starting to design that. And again, of course, continuing to design what's the ministry user doing when they're viewing the student account details, how do they add and resolve a restriction, and also seeing the institution account details. So definitely lots of progress in that area, plus also lots of thinking about other things, in particular reassessment and how does that work so that we can get ready to start designing, as well as editing programs and offerings, which is a little bit of reassessment there. So really busy, and we will continue to be busy over the next, we're down to 6 months. So starting to feel it on this side of things right now. So just a few reminders from a business perspective. As we continue to build more of the ministry user functionality, we've been testing it out. We've been talking turnip truck with different folks. So really starting to what seems to be narrowing and focusing into, in addition to, of course, all the support, ministry users need to be able to add and resolve restrictions. Sorry, that should say student and institution. My apologies, Phil. Approve or deny reported changes. So we need to figure out how do we deal with the whole replacing the Appendix 7 and a change after a COE. And of course, how do we apply exemptions? So if we want to allow an institution to have a program that's eligible, even though they didn't meet one of our policy criteria, how do we allow that to happen, and how do we document that, and for how long? So those are things we're starting to think about. Also mentioned the Epi stuff, so super excited. And I think it's a really great example for us to be able to show you how the feedback from the project has been incorporated and also how usability feedback has been incorporated in order to make some changes. So we'll be showing you some highlights of that. Katie has been busy developing scenarios, and I know we've had some other narrators on our presentation, so big thanks to folks that have stepped up. So included a couple of YouTube links here for you to go and take a look. I think we're at over a dozen end-to-end videos, so would really encourage you to take a look at these, and you're going to see different meetings where we'll just take a mod moment and watch one of the videos. So lots of really great ways just to give you a chance to continue to be exposed to the new system. As always, you're going to see spelling mistakes. You're going to see some help text warning that says, don't do it. Probably not appropriate. But those kinds of things, we're going to continue to fix those. And we are still trying to, as much as possible, build the main pathways and getting people back on the main pathways. So, and that's quite different than how we do now. Right now, we have a lot of secondary roads. So just you're going to continue to see us reusing some of those things. And just a reminder that we are about 6 months out of June. And so you're probably going to hear lots of different conversations right now. Is that really MVP? It's going to come up a lot. We're going to have to make some tough business decisions about what is MVP. And you're going to see a lot of head down, just really focusing on the development and really trying to make some of those difficult decisions. You also might hear different conversations about, oh my God, are we really going to make it? Are we not going to make it? What? So, and that's totally normal. We're having lots of conversations. So just know that you might hear rumors, suggestions, whatever. Tell us what you hear. But if there's anything that's changing as far as timelines or scope or anything like that, we will let you know. But you might hear unofficially as folks are as we're trying to sort it all out. And that's just a normal part of us really pushing for these last 7 months to get this all done. So just so you know, it's going to be busy. And that also leads to the fact that we're going to have a little bit of what we're going to call sprintmas. So the sprint that we have over Christmas will be a little bit lighter than the usual sprint, which means the demo that is scheduled for January 5th will probably be a little bit lighter. We're going to be spending a lot of time in review. I myself will be at home on holidays for most of that sprint. So will some of our other folks who are taking a much needed and much deserved break. So the project will be a little bit leaner over that period of time, just so you know. And I hope other folks are also taking the opportunity to take a break. It's been a busy year. It's been crazy, let alone atmospheric rivers to throw a little extra on top. So just really important to take care of yourself for us to get through these next 6-7 months, because there's more to come. Okay, I'm done for now.
Oh, thank you, Elise. Yeah, and just to reiterate, we're going into hyper focus mode, and so we're going to be in the zone even more so than before, and so we just appreciate your patience as we're trying to get this work smashed out before April and then for June. Okay, we have a lot to show you today for product review, and so first we're going to start with Deepak, who's going to show us some of the program and offering enhancements that we've done in the last 3 weeks.
So I'll grab the screen. Good morning, everyone. So we are gonna see the highlights of the program and offering enhancements that have been made. So I'll jump on to the programs part first. So I'm gonna choose a program to show what all the updates that we have made to it. So I'm gonna edit the program to show in a better view. So the first major one is updation of credential types. So the credential types What we see here is the updated latest list of credential types, and this is being updated all over the system, not just in the front end what we are seeing, or the website what we are seeing. It's all updated over the system. And next, when I say that, it includes the workflow as well, because this is one of the this is part of one of the grand calculations as well, the credential type. And next major thing is about when the program is hours based, so we are checking if there is a minimal of 20 instructional hours per week, and if that is no, if you're checking for if this is an aviation program, because it has 15 hours per week, which is exception to the general program criteria. And if you say no to that, then we say a warning that this may not be an approved program. And likewise, we have added enhanced the entrance requirements for the program. And also we have added work integrated learning component, to choose if this has a work will component or not. When you say yes to this, it'll check if the will is approved by or not, the oversight body or not. And if it is approved, then we also again check for the eligibility requirements, of the program as per StudentAid PC policy. When you say yes, it's all good, but if any of this is no, then it may not be an approved program. And likewise, we have added the field trip, field placement, or travel component, where when you say yes to a field trip, it will check if it meets the program eligibility requirements according to StudentAid BC policy. And when you say no, again, it may not be an approved program. And exactly the same pattern is for international exchange.
Hey, Deepak, sorry to interrupt. Could you, when you're scrolling, could you go a little bit slower, please?
Sure.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, so this is this is about the international exchange again. So when you say no to that, so it may not be an approved program. And this and we have added a declaration here where we confirm that all the information that we entered is meets the policies as per the StudentAid PC manual. And this is a mandatory. Unless you confirm the declaration, you won't be able to submit a program. Now we are going to the offerings. So we will choose one of the offerings here. So I've taken this offering. The first thing what we have added is the year of study to the offering. So it starts from year 1 to year 9. So you choose one of that. And also we have something like display to students. When you select this, what happens is when the when students view their application, the study period or offering is appended with the program, the year of study. When you say no to this part, it doesn't appear in the student application form, which will eventually see as a part of this demonstration as well. And again, this has the declaration thing to it. Now we'll switch over to the student application part, where we have to go to the student world to see that.
So just wanted to, Deepak, while you do that, just wanted to flag, I know that this is really fast, and so we're not expecting that folks have a full understanding of all of this. We absolutely do have a test environment, and Katie and Robin are scheduling some time with institution users, as well as each of the individual teams, as you'd like, so that you can have a chance to get in and play around a little bit. And spend some more time getting to know. So this is intended just to whet your appetite.
So we are coming to the student application part. So when you view the application, so what's been added here is like, as per what I mentioned in the offerings or study period. So you can see the year appended to the offerings here. And also in the student application form, we can add the course code and name. And this is a multiple item that we can add here. And that is all from me about the highlights of the program and offering enhancements. So yeah, back to you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, that was just a high level summary. There was a lot that was done in that ticket. And in the previous sprint on the mural board, there's a link to the wireframes that can help us identify all of the changes. And also to Elisa's point, the scenarios will be recorded. Fine. Next, Guru is going to switch us over to what it looks like for a ministry user to view student account details. This is just the beginning of this process. So far, we've only tackled profile and applications. We've identified some upgrades that we already want to do to it, and we'll be adding some future functionality to it as well around restrictions and notes, etc. So he's going to show us the beginning of that, and then he's going to show us what it looks like to search for an institution account.
Yes. Hey, hi team. If you remember, like in the last demo, we were showing like how do we search a student, and the list of students will be appearing. So I mean, like we missed to show like if the student's application number is searched for the particular student who has submitted that application can be shown also. In the meanwhile, like for this sprint, we have developed this screen where the student's details can be seen, the student's profile and the list of applications. So if you see like the application which I was searched for is over here. So we can do the search with respect to our application number also. And this is the whole this is the screen which we developed for the students' details. So you can go back and you can actually go and see what is the student's application details looks like. That is the application number. So even, I mean, like this has been already been shown to you, like if you just search for a name also, this actually works for the particular student. This is the student's details page, and for the institution, now we have enabled the search institution. So for example, if the legal name has college in it, so you can see like a list of institutions which has the legal name as college B, D, E, C, and F has been listed. So if you have another criteria over it, the search criteria will be restricted into it. And if you have a particular operating name to it, you can just see it. So this screen is in progress right now. So we'll be demoing it in the future sprints. Yeah. These are the two things I have to show for the ministry user who can search and view the students' details and search the institutions right now. Back to you, Michelle.
Awesome, thanks, Guru. And Roop later on in our demo today is going to show us some of the wireframes around the institution account details, so you can see where we're headed with that next sprint. Now, Anne is going to show us how we schedule and send the disbursement schedule. Big milestone for our project.
Good morning, team. Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. So this is our assessment gateway. So when students submit an application, this is a assessment gateway that the application will be following. So once the assessment comes here, we have introduced this disbursement schedule gateway. So this is a disbursement schedule gateway. So here we will be calculating the first and second disbursement. If there is second disbursement, then we'll be calculating the second disbursement. So this logic is here. So this is a workflow that we have added the logic. So here it will be checking whether the student has submitted an application, assessment need is greater than 1. And if the study start date is greater than current date, then study start date will be the first disbursement date. And if it is less, then the current date will be the first disbursement date. And it will be checking whether the program is greater than or equal to 17 weeks. If it is greater than or equal to 17 weeks, then we will be determining the second disbursement date. Else, there will be only one disbursement, and we will be sending all the grants and loans, 100% of all grants and loans. If there is, if the program is greater than 17 weeks, then we will be determining the second date. So for the second date, we will be calculating the midpoint date of the study period from the study start date and study end date. And we will be checking whether the first disbursement date is greater than the midpoint. And if it is greater, then again, there will be only one disbursement and everything will be 100%. And no, if the midpoint date is greater than the current date, then the second disbursement date will be the current date. If the midpoint date is less than the current date, then the second disbursement will be the current date. If it is greater than, then the midpoint date will be the second disbursement date. So this whole logic we have added here. So this is the workflow which will be calculating first and second disbursement date. And after calculating the first and second disbursement date, these are the Canada student loans and BC loan and all grant. So here we will be preparing all these loans and grants. So these are the workflow where we are calculating all these values. So this is for Canada loan, CSGP, CSGD, CSGF, CSGT, SBST, BGDP, BCAG, and BC loan, and we'll be also calculating total BC grant. So once everything is calculated, then we will be preparing the payload that we need to be sent to the SIMS database, and from there we'll be generating the token, and we will be saving the data to our SIMS DB. Now I'll show you two examples of this scenario. So here I have two examples. This is an assessment. So if we check here, you can see that for this application, the program week is greater than 17 weeks. That is, here it is 39.
And could you zoom in just a little bit? It's pretty small.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Can you guys see me? Is it clear now?
Yeah, a bit better. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so if you see here the week is greater than 17. And since the week is greater than 17, we will be having two disbursement, first and second one. So here for the second disbursement, we have calculated the mid date. So these are the offering start and end date. So this is the offering start date and this is the offering end date. So since it is greater than 17, we have also calculated the mid date. And this is the first disbursement date of this particular application. And here we have calculated the second disbursement date for this application. So once we calculate all this disbursement dates, so this is the payload that we are sending. So for a better view, I have beautified it. So here we have two disbursement. So this is a disbursement 1 and this is disbursement 2. So disbursement 1 is in this. Okay, so disbursement 1 is today's date because today's grade according to this logic. Study start date is if greater than current date. If it is no, then current date should be the disbursement date. So according to this logic, that's the reason the today's date is the first disbursement date, and here the mid date is the second disbursement date. And yeah, and if there are two disbursements, if there are two disbursements, at first disbursement we will be sending 100% of Canada loan and all the grants will be 50%. In second disbursement, 100% of student loan and all other grants will be 50%. And if there is only one disbursement, then we will be sending 100% of Canada loan, 100% of BC loan, and all other grants 100%. So if you check here, this is the first disbursement. So for first disbursement, we are only sending the Canada loan. And in the second disbursement, we are sending the BC loan 100%. And here all other grants are 0. Only BCAG is there. So if you check here, so if you check here, the BCAG amount was 100. So since we have like 2 disbursement, we are sending only the half, like the 50% of. So that's the reason it's 50 here, and this is the total BC grant. Same way here only, the next 50 we'll be sending in the next disbursement, and the total is 50. So this is one example, and for the second example, I'll be showing you an application with less than 17 weeks. And here, if you check the application, the program start date is this and end date is this. So since it is less than 17 years, we are not calculating the mid date. And here we do have a first disbursement date, that is today's date. And here second disbursement date is null because the week is less than 17. And beautified. So here, if you check, we are only having one disbursement. So here everything will be, so here the date is today's date, and everything will be 100%. Here all the these grants are 0. BCAG is this value. BCSG is okay, and this is a total of BC grants, and we are sending 100% of Canada loan and 100% of 100% of BC loan and 100% of Canada loan. If we check here, this is a BC amount, so we are sending the whole amount in the first disbursement itself. So these are 2 examples. So one, in this flow, we will be preparing this payload, and we will be saving our data, this data, to our SIMS database. So this is our database. Here we are saving all the values, like all the grants and everything. And from here, we are actually generating a file that we will be sending to ESDC. And Signori will be adding more details to it.
Take it away, Signori.
Yeah, it's not much, just add complementary information. So Camunda is orchestrating everything, saving the grants, loans and stuff. And the file is going to be generated to the ESDC based on the dates saved by Camunda. So Camunda is going to tell us like 1 or 2 dates. We are going to be checking every day what needs to be generated and sent to the ESDC based on some criteria. So anything inside 5 days from now. So if you would be running the process today, it would be anything before November 29. So it's going to be adding to the file if the student has a MSFA signed, if the application is completed, if the student doesn't have any restrictions, for instance. So those are the blockers. So basically, the database is going to contain everything that application must, like the disbursements for that application. We are going to be checking every day, and we are going to be creating the files based on that criteria. All this process is in place. We are generating the file as it is expected, and we are sending to the Zone B, to the administrative zone network that's going to be sent to the ESDC. So all this process is working from the application submission through the workflow that Anne just showed us until the file generation. Just adding that, Michelle.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Signori. So the student will see their disbursement schedule on their notice of assessment. We just haven't linked that yet. That's coming. And I just wanted to highlight the enormous amount of work that was. that was many, many hundreds of pages of Word documents, work with Harry and SFAS, work with Blaine in finance, work with other SMEs, distill it down to a simple workflow with Lisa and Schwenker and bringing it, and now Anne is the expert. So a ton of work, multi sprints of work on this one. And we're in good shape. So thanks so much, Anne, and everyone else. Schwenker, you're going to show us, switching gears, everyone, again, some of the work on our data migration proof of concept. And we'll start with there. How about that?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So I know most people have heard bits and pieces or different conversations about some of the data migration concepts. So first off, big shout out to Mr. Johnson in PBTV for making this happen. Effectively, just want to talk a little more functional about what's actually happening in this. So from SFAS, here created a process to basically flag certain records to be sent to SIMS, our system, for updates. So basically, if anything changes or updates for the student, we will capture that. So restrictions, over awards, basically the critical data we need to conduct certain business application dates for application overlaps, checks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. With this, the approach is going to be the same for the transition plan as it is right now, and then even the operational updates while both systems are running side by side. So what I mean by that is the first case about basically doing the import, we'll call it, of that SFAS data into SIMS. It's basically the exact same process, just for those million or so students that are in the system, with their identified data attached to that, and then we'll get periodic updates if anything changes. So, example, a student withdraws from studies and they were in a application they submitted 6 months ago and it's still going. That happens in SFAS. SIMS will get notified. So if there's a restriction on it, we'll get notified. We'll be talking more in depth about that as time goes on, but hopefully that clarifies some things. The other piece we did about receiving the MSFA file, Guru had showed last time that we are sending the MSFA file. That is the Master Student Financial Aid Agreement that we send to the federal partners to make sure that they sign their agreement so we can actually disperse funds. What we're doing now is actually getting a receipt file back, and effectively the piece we really care about in that file is the date signed that actually says that the student signed their MSFA. From that point, we are loading that, and then from that point, from the MSFA side, it's good to disperse funds. Of course, confirmation of enrollment and all the other checks and stuff, but at least that piece is there. There is a couple outstanding pieces for that, but effectively that's what we're doing. So yeah, I know some people may or may not know that process, but basically we create a file to send to the NSLSC for them to sign their financial aid agreement. We basically wait. We can't do anything until they sign it. They sign it, they send it back to us. We're reading that they signed it, saving the date, and that's now signed. And then we use the standard 2-year business rules and stuff that we went over a few sprints ago for that one. Again, more to come once the entire piece is done. But again, another big milestone there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Schwenker. Go read. That integration is very, very important. Okay, switching gears over to UX UI design work. Lynn is going to show us a high-level review of, oops, stuff moving around. I'm going to lock that down. Student usability testing, and then flip us over to what student sees when they're viewing their messages in their account. Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to just talk about our outcomes from the Student Usability Lab that we ran in November. This is our first testing with students, a really exciting one. What we tested was the homepage, the navigation, and just the financial application and the development site. And the students that were able to participate, we got in some young, mature, in the city, outside of the city, part-time and full-time, and folks who had disabilities as well. So this was a really good range of participants. Out of those participants, we did have 2 thematic findings. So thematic findings meaning that these came up time and time again with the majority of participants, right? So there were 2. The first one being, and I don't think this is a very surprising part for us, but just to kind of note here that students had the most trouble just answering the financial questions, just unsure what some of the words meant, unsure how to answer the questions to the best of the abilities. It seemed like a kind of an anxiety-inducing part of the application. For example, are they going to get the funds they need if they answer incorrectly or correctly, or things like that. So we've kind of just collected what students have said as well. And so I'll just kind of read one of the examples here. You don't want to answer wrong because then they'll say you're committing fraud. So you're always terrified of answering wrong. And then if you don't answer the right way, you might not get funding. So it's a huge stress. And that's why plain language is so important, so that we can just make sure that we're enabling their success in terms of their financial and their kind of educational journey as well. Some improvements that we're kind of putting forward for this, of course, this is definitely up for discussion. We could go with just plain language, the financial questions to a grade 6 level. That would just even the playing field for everyone. Or we can just enable kind of that self-support service by just explaining the financial questions to offer complete transparency. And that we think that will help kind of reduce those common calls to the support center as well. So something like that could look like, you know, this would help us understand if you're eligible for X, or this offers the ability to choose your income year, so that X. So just kind of having that a little bit more transparency in terms of the questions as well. We could also look at doing things like, to learn more about this, you can read our policy document. But I know our policy document is very policy driven, and that's okay. If you know they do want to look at that, we do have that as a resource for the student users as well. So those are just some few improvements that we're thinking of as well. Moving on to the second theme. The second one is students were not need kind of clear actions to take on the homepage. And what that means is that students felt that there was a lot of text on the homepage and not a lot of call to actions. And call to actions just mean like, what do I need to do? Where's that button that will take me to the next step, right? And so what a few students have said is that when I first saw on the homepage, I was like, okay, I see all the words, but I don't, where do I go to start this? Right, so that's just a little bit of an example there. Some improvements, again, we just need to be able to point students to the right direction, right? Do we want to think about what does a first-time student see versus what does a returning student see, right? And so we want to provide that guidance for students, and also including when we're working with multiple systems like the National Student Loan Center, perhaps we can point students to, hey, if you want to manage funds, head over to the National Student Loan Center, just to give a bit more guidance. Those are kind of few improvements we're thinking. We also have, we pulled together other comments. These are kind of non-thematic. These were also observations that we found. Participants said that it's faster to apply. They also like that there's a new feature on the application. This is, again, a reminder on the student application. You can share your application with a trusted contact, meaning you can add your mom, your parents, or whoever that you'd like to. And then the student here thought that was a really good choice because they're always having their mom call in to talk about those things, and they are finding that they have to explain. The mom has to explain, like, I'm with the student, and it kind of becomes like a long story, right? So this is a really liked feature. Disclaimers and consent. I don't think this is surprising for any of us. We observed that the participants just didn't read the disclaimers, but of course we have to have that there, and that's very important as well. So that's that. And just some comments around general experience in general. So if you want to take a look at that, that's there for you as well. Some potential bugs that we encounter in the way, not sure if they're bugs, but just wanted to note it for the team there as we kind of move forward. So that's just that's the summary of the usability lab.
Thanks, Lynn, and certainly not our last usability labs. We'll be continuing to conduct them throughout the rest of time. And now you're going to show us the Student Message Center.
Yes, absolutely. So before I get into it, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the student experience. And when we were in those usability labs, we also kind of just asked them these questions about messaging and notifications and how they would like to receive notifications and what their experience is like right now. And so what we found out in the usability labs is that students will often submit their application. After they're done, close the browser, continue their lives, right? And so they're very keen on getting notifications from Student ABC, like, is the application done? Is it been assessed? Things like that. And so let's say in a few days, like 5 days after or shorter, that you submit your application, you're going to get an email that says, hey, there's something in your account that you need to see. Go log in. You log into with your BC service card, and then you land on the dashboard here or the home page here. And that's when you kind of see that notification badge there. This is something that you probably have seen on other modern services there, right? And so when you click on that, you'll just see that you have one notification in there. This is a notification drawer here that you can scroll in. But you'll notice that as an example, we put in, well, your assessment is now ready, right? Please view and confirm your assessment. If you click on that, it should just send you straight to the assessment or the notice of assessment for you to review, right? So it's a way to get the students back into the portal and also link students to the right place. This kind of helps them kind of be on top of things, right? And speed up their processes. So if you click on see all messages, you'll just kind of see a page with all the archive messages here. So your notifications to stay up to date. And again, it's kind of the same layout. So we're keeping it simple for now, and then potentially we could grow this area as well, right? The needs. So yeah, that's the message center. Over to you, Michelle.
Yes, thanks, Lynn. That's a very helpful message template. And by the way, next sprint we'll likely be getting into all the different scenarios a student would receive a notification and taking up some of that analysis that was done in previous iterations of the project and Confluence, and making sure that they still make sense in this world. Okay, group, you did, with Lynn, an enormous amount of work. The UX team was cranking this past 3 weeks. They just smashed it out. A lot of work done on institution account details. So this is the ministry user going in and viewing all things institution.
Hey, everybody. It's me again. So what we're talking about right now is you as a ministry user logging into the system, and I want to go learn more about a particular institution, their likes, dislikes, et cetera, No, just to like find out more about each one of these institutions. So to get to an institution's profile, what you're going to be doing is you're going to head over to your sidebar, you're going to click on institutions, and you're going to see the search field appear. On the search field, you're going to have the ability to type in a name of an institution. It'll be auto-filled, it'll be like type ahead, so you can type in CAMO and then Camosun College would pop up. You can hit view institution. Once you do that, you'll be into their profile. So what you can see on this page is a few things. You're going to see their designation status appears up top. You can see a couple of tabs. And let's go through them real briefly. You got your profile information, which is stuff that they would be entering into their own profile. You've got the program section, which shows all the programs that this particular institution has. The locations, so all their places that they have. The users, so these are the institution's users. The designations, past and present. Restrictions that they have on their institution, as well as notes. So let's dig into each one of those. So program section, right in here, you're able to look at all the programs that they have on offer and whether they're approved or in pending. When you click on one that's in pending status, you'll be able to go through, take a look at it, and approve it. Now, one thing to note here is, by and large, things will mostly be approved by the system just doing its regular checks based on the form, based on all of the criteria that we ask of them to meet to have an approved program. So you may not need to do this all the time. And I think this is going to be one of those things that Camosun College calls you and say, hey, this didn't get approved. I'm wondering why. Can we take a look at this and work on this together? From this place, you can kind of say, okay, let me take a look. It seems as though this is ineligible, as an example. Like you can see all the things that are eligible or are not eligible, and then you can kind of guide them that way. You can see the study period offerings as well. You can look at all of them there. And let's just say you like them, things are going good, you can approve it right there. You get a little prompt here to say, yes, I agree, and then you can approve it that way. Okay, let's go back to locations. So in locations, you can see every location that they've added, and you can see the designation status of that particular location as well. This is, again, information provided by them. You don't edit. If you see something that's amiss here, you go, hey, institution, fix it. It's self-serve. On the user side of things, you can see all the users that are in this account. You can see what locations they're attached to. For example, if you're a location manager, you can see which locations they're a location manager at, and their status here. Again, you're not doing anything here other than viewing and understanding who does what, where. Self-serve, it's on them to remove, add, all that stuff, self-serve. Designation status, you can see the active and upcoming designations. This is, if you remember from months and months ago, I showed this to you guys for the institution side. When they look at their own designations and all of that, this is basically their view of that, just so you can kind of see what they see. One of the notes that we had from the business area from you guys was that I want to be able to support these institutions and students as well, because sometimes I don't know exactly what they're seeing. And so this is what we're trying to do here, is reuse components as much as possible so that you can see as closely to their view so you can help support them. Restrictions, the fun one. Okay, so in restrictions, you can see that there's specific ones that are going to be for institutions versus, say, students. But let's take a look at how this all works. So you've got your restrictions here. You can see the type down here. When you want to add one to them manually, you click Add Restriction. You would select a type. The type here, they're very specific to the institutions. I'm not going to go into the restriction details because we've got limited time here. But you'd pick the type, select a reason, add a quick note, and hit Add. It would then become active on the account. In the future, you might be thinking, hey, what about a custom one that I need to add? It's in the future, not quite MVP. Maybe it is, but we'll have to see how we get to with time. And when you're viewing one, you can look at it this way, and you have the option to resolve it. So you resolve it by clicking that button. You can kind of see all that restriction information, give a resolution reason, spelling mistake, Michelle. Okay, and then I know it's mine. I'm just. You're the only person I see on my screen right now. Restriction has been resolved. You can temporarily suspend a restriction, or there's another reason that you'd want to resolve it. Enter a quick note, hit submit. It's now been resolved. They can go back to their day-to-day business. And then just to view a resolved one, just to see what it looks like, you can see the the restriction information that it was originally. You can see Ralph Edwards did it. You can see the resolution reason as well. Ralph's been doing a lot of work in this system, if you look closely. Here in the notes section, what we've done is we've added a couple of types. So you can click on one of these tabs up here, and it's going to filter to your notes based on that type of note. Once you've done that, you can see I want to see all the general notes as an example. You just see all of the general notes in this kind of timeline. Or you can filter by system actions as an example. Whenever the system creates an action in the future, we're going to want to see why and how and all these things. So this is where you can see that timeline. And then to create a new one, you would click Create New Note. You would pick a type. For now, we're only strictly doing general type notes. That's just MVP for now. In the future, we might add a few more, but that's about it. You enter a quick little note here. Yeah, you would enter your note there and hit Add Note. Once you do that, it'll be added to the timeline. This is kind of useful. It's got a timestamp as well. Say there's multiple calls in one day, you'll know they called Jeremy, they called Phil, and they all had different notes and things to say. And they'll pop up down here. That is the institution details.
Excellent first draft. First start. Yeah, so we're going to be, this has been broken into many user stories for the devs to build, and we're going to see how many we can fit in next sprint. Okay, Lisa, quickly.
Yes, mine will.
This very complex workflow around reassessment. Dang.
So we're looking at changes reported by institution and also students and what happens with them. So if an institution, whoops, sorry.
The ninjas, they can't catch you, but could you make it a little bigger, please?
Yes, I will. From beginning. Sorry. So if an institution reports a change, we put a hold on the account right off the bat when a change comes in to stop any notice of assessments going out or any monies going out. We look at what the type is. If it's a change regarding the student, we look at whether it's withdrawal, an early completion, or unsuccessful completion. And then the ministry staff review it for possible overaward, a need to restrict account, or whether there be no change. And then they would add, edit, or remove the restriction at that point, and then notify the institution and possibly student of the outcome. So going back up to here, if the institution reports that change, again, the hold, if the type is regarding the program details, intensity, costs, then it's going to go down and it's going to be listed for review by the ministry. I'll pop down to student because it's the same process with them. At this point, they report a change. A hold is placed on the student's file to stop any money from going out. And then, so ministry is going to review it. And do they need more information? If they do, they ask the student for that additional information. If they don't, then they look at whether they can approve this request. If they can't, then they're going to go down here and the current notice of assessment would remain valid. If they can approve the request, they want to look at whether the assessment impacts the award or study dates. If it doesn't, then again, current notice of assessment remains valid. If it does impact those, they want to produce a new notice of assessment, receive confirmation of the notice of assessment. That takes that initial hold off automatically, but they might need to add, edit, or remove a restriction if there's an additional one. And then again, notifying the student and institution of the outcome of the change reported.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. So yes, a lot of work that we need to do upcoming around reassessments and over awards coming soon. Okay. So that's it. That's the show. We're just going to have Elise tell us what some of our goals are for next sprint.
Okay, can I just say that I want to catch my breath?
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone else is trying to do the same, right? There is a lot of information that we have just thrown at you really quickly and you can see the screens, right? It's okay. It's okay that you probably didn't have time to see everything that you wanted to see. And so we need to follow up, and that's why we're scheduling those smaller sessions with individual teams, because I'm pretty sure that Phil's team, you want to take a look at what's that thing they were talking about with the ministry user and how does that work and all that kind of stuff for the institution account. Whereas I'm imagining that, for example, Jeremy, your team probably wants to take a look more about what does the students see and how do they select their programs and what are we going to do to support them. So we're definitely starting to get to that place. So apologies that it probably feels really fast, and that's okay. So we're just trying to give you a flavor, and you've now had a little bit of the buffet and can say, okay, I need to know more about that and that and that. And let's talk to myself or the other feature owners, your team lead, about how do you get more information about that so that you can start to feel more comfortable. Okay, so just a quick note then that what are we going to be doing for the next few weeks? And I think if nothing else, it gives you a sense of the absolute frenetic pace that folks are working at to get this done in the time that we need. So we've got way more business rules to develop, and you can start to see the behind the scenes. We haven't shown you what the ministry user is going to see about the award calculations, but that's just the engine running in the background and sending stuff. We're going to be working on some of those files that go back and forth. That's what the full-time feedback cert is. It's one of those files that goes back and that comes back from the feds. We're going to be making some adjustments to the notice of assessment as we continue to make sure that we have accurately calculated the award, communicated the award, and then told the feds what money to give. We're continuing to work on the restrictions piece. You saw the beginning of that today, a little bit about how could a ministry user see a student's restrictions. We're going to be continuing to work on some of these, I'm going to call them reassessments, right? But they're also changes. They're changes that happen after a student has confirmed enrollment. What happens if the school makes a change to the offering? What happens if the student withdraws? What happens if the student has another kid? All of these things. What happens when a change happens? How do we get them back onto that main road and get that process? So we're going to keep working on that. You saw the beginning of the message center. And we're going to keep working on those notifications using the work, Alana, that you did before you went on a TA and all of the consultation to say, hey, when can we make things better for students, which they're telling us they want to hear. They need to know a few things. And so how do we do everything? Are we going to do everything for MVP? No. But so we're going to pick those high priority items. We're going to continue to work on, we actually have to build the application for those loan forgiveness programs. We've shown you the design. Now we actually have to build it, and we're going to continue to build some of the stuff that Roop showed you today. Those are designs, they're not built yet. So now we're going to move into building them. We have our first meeting with our accessibility review person next week. So we're going to start to ask people to look at our system and say, hey, how are we doing? Are we doing well in some areas? What are some areas where we need to continue to focus on? So we're starting to ask that. We need to continue to complete some of our designs for ministry users. And we also need to look forward. The one application we haven't had a chance to look at yet, we'd hoped to do it last sprint, but it didn't happen, is the YEEF and the former youth in care application. So we're going to try to take a look at that. And of course, designing more of that ministry user experience. Plus, we've got some more analysis to make sure that we're ready to design and then build some other areas as well. So pretty intense, lots going on right before Christmas, but I'm hoping that you're starting to see how it's starting to come together. So I can see little glimpses of it. I'm sure you see little flashes of it, but I just really want to encourage you to use those time with Katie and with Robin for you to get into the environment, start to play with it. Let's throw a question. Does it work? We may not have built the functionality that we're talking about yet, but let's make sure that what you're talking about is on our list to build, because maybe we've missed something. These things happen. So really invite you to come to those little sessions and start to get a chance to play in the environment, because you'll be able to see things that you just didn't have time to see in this presentation. So that's what we're doing next. There's lots of questions. It's 11 o'clock, but we have scheduled an extra 15 minutes to go over some of the questions. I think the good news is that many of the questions we have been able to answer as we go. But I think if we could do that.
We also have a question on the phone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's start with the person on the phone and we'll Go for it, whoever
Go for it,
wants.
David.
Thanks, David.
Hi, I wondered whether the requirements for the tuition waiver program and YEEF have been harmonized.
So it's a very good question. No, not yet. And just to be clear, the scope of tuition waiver program is the only scope that is in for MVP is the application. The actual processing and all of the back end, which is where a lot of those discussions are still happening, is out of scope for the MVP. So I just asked that question just yesterday and said, are you ready to design the application or do you still need more time? And the answer was no, we feel we're ready for the application only. So more work to come on those other pieces, but as far as the application goes, yes. Good question, Dave.
Elise, we have so the yellow stickies are the answers to the questions that were provided in the chat.
Great.
We have
Thank
a
you.
few blank stickies that we didn't quite answer, so perhaps we could zero in on those.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for organizing that. So the credential list. So we showed you a revised credential list that came out of the Epi program, and you'll notice that one of the key differences is it says graduate or undergraduate. And so, yes, it is linked to grant eligibility. And the reason for that is, for example, a grant may only be eligible if you're in an undergraduate program. So now if your program is identified as having a credential that's graduate, it makes you ineligible for it. So that's where the linkage is. And that's why changing that list was quite a big deal and a lot of work in the background to go back and make sure that all of the business rules that generate that financial piece are using the correct credential list. So yes, the credential list is linked to eligibility for grants. And please stop me if there's follow-up questions or if I haven't answered the question correctly or if I maybe missed the point of the question. Sometimes that happens. So 17 weeks is an FSA calculation. Isn't the weeks calculation changing? So I think what this question is about is how do we calculate? And we continue to calculate based on weeks. There was some really great work done by Jacob and the policy team to help define that. And that work has clearly articulated that depending on the number of days, which calculates into weeks, then we'll go from there. And if your program, pardon me, your offering is 16 weeks plus 3 days, that will be rounded up to 17 weeks. So we will continue to use weeks calculation, and there is no plan to change the calculation of that midpoint disbursement funding. No plan to change. I see there's a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Stephanie. I'm just wondering then if there's a single term application that goes September to December, and in the new counting methodology that turns out to be 18 weeks, that exceeds the 17 week. So what would happen for that disbursement schedule? That's
a good question. Andrew, can you help me, or maybe Anne, could you help me? So if we have an 18-week offering, I want to make sure I'm using the right word, that will be broken into 2 disbursements, is that correct?
For the most part, yes, there are some conditions where depending on what the current date is and some different criteria. So like based off the workflow that Anne shared, it is very likely that it would be 2 disbursements, but if you're at the midpoint currently when you're applying, you might only get 1 based off of the different criteria.
And just to be clear, if we break that disbursement into 2, the student would get the first disbursement at either their study start date, depending on when they applied, or as soon after that as they applied, and at the median point, which is calculated. So in this example, at approximately 9 weeks. Is that correct?
My concern, if I can just jump in, I'll just jump in. From an institution perspective, if you take a 4-month study period and midpoint disperse that, the student will probably not have enough money to pay that tuition, let alone they won't be receiving their money to live until October. So that's where my concern falls. And I know the 17-week used to mean 4 months. So that's why I just wasn't clear. So I don't need a full answer on it today. I just it'll be really important for schools to understand that. Although Harry may be jumping in to save me here.
Go for it, Harry.
Oh, I was just wondering, currently we only have a set number of allowable weeks, right? For example, 13, 17, 22, 26, etc. 18 is not an allowable set of weeks. Are you getting away from that that list of allowable weeks? Are you just going to whatever number of weeks?
That's correct. That's my understanding from the policy work that was done, is that we're not going to give people a list. They're going to give us the dates and calculate the weeks. But I hear the question, and so I just want to flag maybe for, I'm not sure if Jacob is on the call or the policy folks could, I think we need to take this away. So we need to take it away and consult with policy, because I hear what you're saying is that perhaps maybe 17 weeks isn't the cutoff. Perhaps 18 weeks could be the cutoff. But at this point, the way the policy is written and where things are at, we are breaking it into 2. But I hear that being a potential change. So we need to get some direction on that. Okay, thanks.
Stephanie,
I tried to answer lots of other ones, but what's next?
Okay. How will we be dispersing, viewing disbursements in the new system?
Right, and so this was a good catch because I think I do want to make sure that folks were clear. Anne showed us a whole bunch of really cool behind the scenes stuff about how disbursement is calculated and get ready. That is not something, and I asked this exact question because I was like, is that what the ministry user is going to see? Because I didn't understand any of it. And so the answer is no. That's not what the ministry user is going to see. That's the system. We're looking inside the black box behind. So we have yet to design what the ministry user is going to see as it relates to disbursements. So we'll have to sort that out. So don't know the answer to that, but as soon as we have a design, we'll definitely share it with you.
And what about the interest-free application?
Oh, you had to ask, really? Okay, so interest-free application has been identified as one of the 5 extra applications that are in scope for the MVP. We have also put it as our lowest priority for all of the applications because there is a viable alternative, although I appreciate it's not the favorite alternative. So at this point in time, we are not prioritizing the interest-free application. We'll see if we get back to it. It's not officially off the list for the MVP, but it's pretty close to the bottom right now. I had to break that really fun news to the institutions last week, and I know that was a tough one. But at this point in time, we're just not prioritizing it right now. We're not able to with everything else. We're kind of looking at it going, what's more important? That we have a great interest-free application or that we disperse funds? And we kind of went with, we need to be able to disperse funds. And if we can get all of those things sorted out, then we'll have a chance to pick that back up. And just to be clear, our goal is that the interest-free application will largely follow those main roads that we've already built. So the goal would be that you apply, the schools would confirm enrollment in the same way that they do for other programs, offerings, and then we communicate with national. We just don't need to assess that application in the same way. So yeah, so that's what's happening with interest-free right now. It's there, it's sitting at the bottom of the pile. Yeah, I broke the news at our sector advisory meeting, and then some folks joked with me about, oh, I hear you're going to do it. And I said, again, no, I'm really not saying that. So so we'll continue to have that. Again, I'm not saying it's completely out, but it's at the bottom of the pile right now. That's what's happening with interest-free.
Okay, when you make that change, do you add the users who changed the record to the record, not some generic web server?
Sorry, I'm not clear what that change is.
Yeah.
What Rod is referring to there, at least, especially in the back end, about when Elise Pavetta makes a change to a record, if in the back end, if we're capturing Elise or if we're capturing generic user, basically how the systems talk to each other.
Or the web service, you know, from the app, the server, because for an audit.
Yeah, agreed. No,
who has changed this record? You need to do that.
Yeah, good question.
You need to make sure the name comes all the way down and then it gets stored in the database.
Yeah, we know for records management, we need to know that Elise made the change, not somebody in SBAS or somebody at SABC. Absolutely. So I'm not sure that we can answer that today, but I absolutely hear the requirement. And from a records management, we will be required to capture the name of the user.
Good.
Absolutely. We need to do that. So then there was a question about location. So this is and I was trying to open the test environment because I typed a response, Jason, and I thought, I recall that feels like a long time ago since we built this, but I recall that we created a contact for the entity and that we also created a contact for the location, and those could be different. But I was double checking. Am I correct, Andrew? You're nodding your head. Yep. So the good news is that those can be different people. So Camosun College can have one person that's responsible for the whole kit and caboodle, and Camosun could have a different contact person, and that can be edited by the account users, not by the ministry user. That's the institution users that would edit that. I hear you. Searching by email. So something for us to think about in a future state. Yeah. Okay. Good. Any last questions? Confirming year of study will be linked to grant, not just credential. Good question. Confirming year of study. So if we have a grant that says it must be less than 2 years, then yes, I believe we look at year of study, not just the name of the credential, because that is not the accurate information. The program actually says how many years is this program, and you're right, we need to make sure that we're checking that, not the name of the credential, because it might be a diploma, but that doesn't make it a 4-year program. So we'll have to double check that. I think Lisa said a revised NOA is produced only if there's a change. I'm not quite sure if she said that. I might have been typing, but the idea is that we will create a new NOA. I think at least for MVP. I know that I don't want to create situations where students end up with 7 new NOAs because they made 7 changes, but at least for NOA, I think we need to keep it simple. If you made a change, you might make multiple changes, just to be clear, within one submission, then a new NOA will be generated. The outcome may well be the same. You may not get any more because you've already hit your maximum, for example, or whatever, but we need to tell them, here's the outcome of what you've put in. And then we need to keep a record of that, obviously, from a records management perspective. But we are trying to give them cues along the way, because if they've already got the maximum, which it says on the NOA that you got the maximum, then it may not be worth your while doing this again. We're trying, but for MVP, we'll probably not resolve all of that, but we'll continue to improve as we go. And just a reminder, MVP is the beginning. This isn't the end state. MVP is the beginning, and then our goal is to have phase 2 by next fall, and then phase 3 by a year after MVP. So big things. And lastly, we've got 20 seconds. What's the last one? Will students be able to use their smartphone to access the site? So yes, we are building with the assumption that students will be using this on a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop. So yes, that's absolutely what our assumption is, and that we're building from that accessibility perspective, that things may shift around, you know how it goes from landscape to whatever, all those different things. So yes, we are building with that assumption. Yeah, super exciting.
Awesome. 1 minute over. So thanks very much, everyone. We've captured your questions. If you have other questions, feel free to email us, any one of us, and we will make sure that you get a response. And any other juicy topics we'll bring back to the Business Connect.
For sure.
Awesome. See you in 3 weeks. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good